Okay, so if you're watching this, I've probably released a short that has something to do with Suzanne. It's probably a little bit weird. So the point of that short is to act as a test, what I call a proof case, a proof of concept plus use case, to test myself to see if I can actually get over the cognitive hurdle of producing something short and quick like that with my new method of rendering animation straight from Blender as movies rather than image slices. I talked about this recently in my startup file video. Whereas a way to kind of get over this cognitive hurdle of a kind of false sense of professionalism, I've been experimenting with a way of rendering out extremely low resolution, low sample video files from Blender really quickly, editing the entire short in DaVinci Resolve with those low res versions. So you can still see enough. So you can get like an idea of the shaders, the effects, how it's actually going to look and time up to the music. And then once you're happy with the edit, you can just have fun playing with the scene. The edit's already done. You just keep working on the art. Then when it's done, just re-render everything or send it off to a render farm. So you really get the difficult part out the way early, and then you just play around. So this Suzanne short was just a quick test of that. So the actual file will be available on my Patreon under the June 2026 production files for Project Fold. Even though it's not actually a Project Fold project, it's just an experiment in the process of working on Project Fold. So that's why it's going to be contained under that production file post. So you can have a look inside of that file, see all the data. There's quite a lot of geometry, density-wise, for Suzanne. A lot of things that are rough around the edges. All the images should be packed in as well, so it should work fine. But that's for the $5 tier patrons, by the way. So, they get access to all the production files. It's fun to learn from things you can get your hands on like that. For the question of what's the meaning behind the short, well, that's something that, an artist should never explain the meaning. I don't actually believe that. I think there are good cases to, explain work and other cases not to. But I think in this case, I'll just leave it be. Enjoy it how you like. Don't overthink it though. It's only taken a few days, not actively all the time, just like little moments in each of the days to get that done and out the door. But yeah, hopefully, what I want to try and do, shouldn't really say things before you do them, well, at least this is the plan, is to get into a flow. So there's a part of me that's working on Project Fold as an animated production as it is. Then there's another part of me that's kind of just doing my regular thing. Now, in my mind, there's a goal of aligning the two on kind of an intersecting path where the habitual behaviors of regular me intersect with the me that's working on the production. Does this make sense? If habitual me can get more used to this process of doing the animated shorts, then it aligns with production me, so we become a kind of hyper-effective outputter. Probably sounds a bit weird. Maybe not to people that already know a bit about me, that I always have this kind of almost pathological way of seeing myself as two people. Kind of runs a lot into a lot of the stuff I do. I think I spoke about this a lot in the, what video was it? This one where I basically told people I was gay. Blender project updates and drama aftermath, April 2026. Quite an important video. There's a lot of stuff in there that explains a lot about the way I do things. Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself in terms of creative output over the years. And I'm kind of hyper aware and hyper vigilant of my pattern recognition abilities, not just in terms of an observational perspective, but also interoceptive. And I've learned now to understand that the way I see things like productivity and other things is kind of an almost mirrored reflection, like a symmetry across scale of my internal self. So while I've kind of been reducing a lot of ideas externally to an almost asymmetrical symmetry of ideas, like two things happening in parallel, like superposition, two things in conflict that benefit each other, I'm noticing that a lot of that implies internally. So now I understand that I've always been aware that I'm two people, cognitively speaking. I don't know how much of that is biomedical in any way, but I know I feel it instinctively in some way, but I just never really knew how to vocalize it. And it's not like a gender identity thing. To be honest, I have no idea what it is. No idea. I just know that whenever I look at my output and the way I filter the world through ideas, and as I work towards making myself a more effective learner, a creative, etc., everything settles on this idea of two things in conflict and how the melding of them produces a benefit. It's almost, I don't know, it's like a motif. And over time, I've just learned to notice it more. So I don't really fully understand it, but I know that it's there. So anyway, a lot of that is to say that this kind of short coming out of nowhere that's not associated with the animated production I'm working on is me kind of starting these little tests to bring these two things onto a collision point. I know a lot of the stuff I put out online looks completely fucking random, and that has led to me kind of disenfranchising a lot of people over time because I'm a very hard person to pin down, and I know this very well because it's kind of funny because someone I tried to date once called me four-dimensional as a not necessarily good thing. Then again, they had their own issues with kind of paranoid schizophrenia-esque stuff anyway, but I remember finding that really interesting because there's almost no better way to learn about yourself than from other people, because it's, it's a completely different perception frame to yourself. But it seems that I'm quite a bad match for someone with paranoia issues, because as someone who's very difficult to read, because my mind is all over the place, it means that I think on a personal level, some people see me as trustworthy if they can't get a complete read on me at any moment in time, which is disappointing. But I suppose I just need to find people that understand that. I mean, it was just the funniest fucking thing, because it wasn't an argument. It was almost like an exasperated, like, you're just so fucking 4D. And I'm like, what do you mean 4D? It's like the weirdest energized argument I've ever had. But yeah, so I should move on to the next short, among other things, obviously. But, now I've got to come up with an idea for something that will either be cognitive or weird or whatever happens in the spur of the moment. Another proof case. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's very short. It's quite interesting. Otherwise, if you've made it to the end here, put a monkey-related emoji. That seems appropriate in the comments. Give me that parasocial validation. Let me know that you're watching. Join our Discord server, codasol.online/links. Join our Patreon, Le Patreon, if you want to get access to the files. And I will see you next time.